Imagine a world without books, no libraries, no printing press, not even paper. Now imagine preserving thousands of verses with such extraordinary accuracy that, after more than 3,000 years, they can still be recited almost exactly as they were in ancient times. It sounds impossible, yet this is precisely what happened in ancient India. Long before many civilizations recorded their history on stone or parchment, a remarkable tradition emerged, one that preserved knowledge not through writing, but through the disciplined power of the human mind. That knowledge is known as the Ved. For millions of people, the Ved are sacred scriptures. For historians, they are among the oldest surviving literary works in any Indo-European language. For linguists, they preserve an ancient form of Sanskrit unlike any spoken today. And for philosophers, they contain some of humanity's earliest attempts to understand the universe, nature, and our place within it. But what exactly are the Ved? Who composed them? What do they actually contain? And why have they remained relevant for thousands of years? To answer these questions, we must travel back to the dawn of Vedic civilization. The word Ved comes from the Sanskrit root vid, meaning to know. So the word literally means knowledge, but not just information. For the people of the Vedic age, knowledge included understanding nature, society, morality, ritual, language, and the deeper principles governing the universe. In the Hindu tradition, the Ved are called Shruti, meaning that which is heard. According to this tradition, the ancient rishi did not invent these hymns through imagination. Instead, they perceived eternal truths during deep states of contemplation and passed them to their disciples through oral tradition. Modern historians interpret this differently. Most scholars believe the hymns were composed by many generations of poet-priests over several centuries. These compositions were then preserved with extraordinary precision through a highly disciplined oral tradition. Although these perspectives differ, they agree on one remarkable fact. The preservation of the Ved is one of the greatest achievements in human memory. But before understanding how they were preserved, we first need to understand what they actually are. Many people think the Ved are a single book. They are not. The Vedic corpus consists of 4 great collections, each with its own purpose. The oldest is the Rig Veda, composed of 28 hymns arranged into 10 books, called mandalas. It is the oldest and most important of the 4 Ved. Its hymns praise natural forces, express philosophical ideas, and preserve the beliefs of early Vedic society. The very first verse of the Rig Veda begins with a prayer to Agni, the deity of fire. Agnimiye purohitan yagyasya devam ritvijam. Hotarin retnidhatamam. I praise Agni, the sacred fire, the priest of the sacrifice, the divine minister who bestows precious blessings. Why does the oldest Vedic text begin with fire? Because for the Vedic people, fire was much more than a physical element. It cooked their food, protected them from darkness, provided warmth, and during rituals it symbolized the bridge between humanity and the divine. Every offering was placed into the sacred fire with the belief that Agni would carry it to the gods. As we continue reading the Rig Veda, we encounter many other deities. Indra, the mighty warrior associated with storms and victory. Varun, guardian of cosmic order and moral law. Surya, the radiant sun who sustains life. Ushas, the beautiful goddess of dawn who announces every new morning. These were not merely characters in mythology. For the Vedic people, they represented the powerful forces that govern the natural world. The second collection is the Sam Veda. If the Rig Veda is poetry, the Sam Veda is music. Interestingly, most of its verses are borrowed from the Rig Veda. So why create another Veda? Because the purpose was entirely different. Instead of reading the verses, priests sang them. The Sam Veda arranged these hymns into carefully structured melodies used during rituals. Every note, every pause, and every change in pitch mattered. Many scholars consider this tradition one of the earliest foundations of Indian classical music. For the Vedic people, sound itself possessed sacred power. Correct pronunciation was considered essential because even a slight change in tone could alter the ritual. The third collection is the Yajur Veda. While the Rig Veda gives us hymns and the Sam Veda gives us melodies, the Yajur Veda explains how rituals were actually performed. It contains mantras, prose passages, and detailed instructions describing each step of a yagi. One of the most famous prayers associated with the Vedic tradition appears in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, a text connected with the Yajurveda. Asto ma sadgame, tamso ma jyotirgame, mrityor mamritan game. Lead me from the unreal to the real. Lead me from darkness to light. Lead me from mortality toward immortality. Although composed in the later Vedic period, these lines beautifully express the shift from external ritual toward inner wisdom, a transformation that would shape Indian philosophy for centuries. The fourth and final collection is the Atharva Veda. Unlike the other three, which focus largely on rituals and ceremonial life, the Atharva Veda brings us much closer to everyday society. Its hymns speak of health, healing, family, agriculture, prosperity, peace, and protection. They reveal the hopes and concerns of ordinary people. One prayer expresses a wish that remains meaningful even today. Bhadran karnebhe shrinuyam deva. May we hear what is auspicious, O gods, simple, timeless, a reminder that true wisdom begins with listening. Together, these four Vedas formed the intellectual and spiritual foundation of early Indian civilization. But each Veda is far more than a collection of hymns. Every Veda is traditionally divided into 4 layers, each representing a different stage in the evolution of Vedic thought. The first is the Sanhita. These are the original collections of hymns, chants, and mantras, the oldest layer of every Veda. Next come the Brahman texts. These explain the meaning of rituals, the symbolism behind sacrifices, and the procedures followed during ceremonies. Then come the Aranyak, literally meaning forest texts. These works were intended for those who had begun withdrawing from worldly responsibilities to pursue contemplation and spiritual reflection. Finally come the Upanishad. Here something extraordinary happens. The focus shifts away from rituals and begins asking deeper philosophical questions. Who am I? What is consciousness? What is the ultimate reality behind the universe? Instead of explaining how to perform a sacrifice, the Upanishad seek to understand the nature of existence itself. This gradual journey, from hymns to rituals to contemplation, and finally to philosophy, is one of the most remarkable intellectual developments in the ancient world. But understanding the structure of the Veda leads to an even greater mystery. How could such an enormous body of knowledge survive for centuries before it was ever written down? The answer lies in one of the most disciplined educational traditions humanity has ever created. In the Vedic world, education was not based on books, it was based on listening. A student known as a Shishya lived with the Guru in a Gurukul, often for many years. Learning was slow, deliberate, and deeply personal. The Guru would recite a single verse, the Shishya repeated it. Again and again, not until every sound, every pause, and every accent was perfect would the next verse be taught. This was far more than memorization. Vedic Sanskrit depends not only on words, but also on precise pronunciation and tonal accents. Ancient teachers believed that altering even a single sound could change the meaning of a mantra. To preserve this accuracy, they developed astonishing methods of recitation. A verse could be spoken normally, then repeated forwards and backwards, paired word by word, or woven into complex chanting patterns that acted like built-in error detection. Imagine storing an entire library inside the human brain, then creating multiple ways to verify that every sentence remained unchanged. It was an extraordinary achievement of discipline, memory, and dedication. Perhaps this is why the Vedas survived not because they were written down, but because they were lived. Yet the Vedas are more than hymns and rituals. They also offer a window into the civilization that created them. The people of the Vedic age lived in villages surrounded by rivers, forests, and fertile lands. Agriculture and cattle formed the backbone of their economy. The horse played an important role in travel and warfare. Families lived in close-knit communities, and society was organized around cooperation, learning, and ritual life. Kings ruled kingdoms, but they were not always absolute rulers. Early Vedic texts mention assemblies known as Sabha and Samiti, where important matters could be discussed. Although historians continue to debate exactly how these institutions functioned, they suggest that consultation and collective decision-making were already valued in parts of Vedic society. Nature was not viewed as something separate from humanity. The rising sun marked the rhythm of daily life. The arrival of rain determined prosperity. Fire sustained both the household and the sacred ritual. The rivers nourished settlements and became symbols of life itself. This deep connection with nature echoes throughout the Vedic hymns. One of the most famous examples is the Gayatri Mantra found in the Rig Veda, Om Bhurbhuvah Tatsaviturvarenyan, Bhargo Devasya Dhimhi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodhyat. We meditate upon the glorious radiance of the divine source. May that light illuminate and inspire our intellect. Although many people recite this mantra as a daily prayer, its message is universal. It is not a request for wealth or power. It is a prayer for wisdom, for an awakened mind, for the ability to think clearly and live rightly. As Vedic thought continued to develop, the questions became even more profound. One remarkable hymn, known as the Nasdi Sukt, explores the mystery of creation itself. Instead of confidently declaring how the universe began, it asks questions that remain relevant even today. Ko adha ved ka ih pravochit, kut ajata kut ian visrishti. Who truly knows? Who can say where creation came from? The hymn continues with an extraordinary reflection. Perhaps the Creator knows, or perhaps even the Creator does not. For text composed thousands of years ago, this spirit of inquiry is remarkable. Rather than claiming certainty, it embraces the mystery of existence. This willingness to question reality became one of the defining characteristics of later Indian philosophy. Over time, these ideas inspired the Upanishad, where thinkers explored concepts such as Brahman, the ultimate reality, and Atman, the inner self. These philosophical traditions would later influence schools such as Vedanta, shape the spiritual teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, and continue to inspire seekers around the world. The influence of the Veda extended far beyond philosophy. Their chanting traditions shaped classical music. Their study preserved one of the world's oldest forms of Sanskrit. Their rituals influenced religious practices across the Indian subcontinent. Their ideas became woven into literature, ethics, education, and cultural life. Even today, Vedic chants continue to be heard in homes, temples, and ceremonies, connecting the present with a tradition that stretches back through countless generations. Of course, the Vedas are also the subject of continuing research and debate. Exactly when were the earliest hymns composed? How should we interpret references to the river Sarasvati? What can archaeology, linguistics, and geology tell us about the Vedic world? These questions remain active areas of scholarship, and new discoveries continue to refine our understanding. But whatever conclusions future research may reach, one fact is beyond dispute. The Vedas have endured, not because they belonged to the most powerful empire, not because they were protected by massive stone monuments, but because generation after generation believed they were worth remembering. In a world where information is stored on servers that can fail and devices that quickly become obsolete, there is something deeply humbling about a civilization that trusted the human mind as its greatest library. Perhaps that is the true legacy of the Vedas. They remind us that knowledge is not merely something we possess. It is something we preserve, something we question, something we pass on. Some civilizations are remembered for the monuments they built, others for the wars they fought. But ancient India gave the world something far more enduring, a living tradition of knowledge that has survived for millennia. Whether you approach the Vedas as history, philosophy, literature, or sacred scripture, they continue to invite us to ask deeper questions about ourselves, our world, and the search for truth. And maybe that is why their voice still echoes across thousands of years. If you enjoyed this journey into the forgotten chapters of our past, you've only begun to uncover the stories waiting to be told. This is the Tales of Lost Glory, where we explore the civilizations, legends, discoveries, and ideas that shaped humanity, but were too often left in the shadows of history. If you don't want to miss the next journey, subscribe and let us know in the comments which ancient mystery should we uncover next. Until our next story, keep seeking knowledge, keep questioning history,